Hey folks, so in this video, I'm going to just kind of quickly go over a lot of the prep work that I'm going to be doing for Cataclysm's launch, because if you're watching this, you may be watching this on the second channel right as I release it, or you may have already watched the main leveling guide that I've put on my main channel, which is like covering all the important 80 to 85 stuff, but the leveling guide that I'm posting on launch day is mostly focused on general 80 to 85 stuff. I want to cover broad strokes, zone progression, important details that anybody can use even after launch, because there's a lot of important things that are very specific to launch leveling, like prequests, or, certain things you can farm before, etc., that really just don't apply after the first day. So I'm making this video now, wanted to make it maybe a day or two ago, but oh well, my schedule's been screwed. But hopefully at least a few of you are able to get some help out of this and get a few things set up. So, first things first, the reason I'm starting in Orgrimmar, this is something that you can kind of do right now. I did talk about it in a different video, but the cooking daily is currently available. Let me just clear out this one quest that it automatically handed me. So you can pick up this thing, and it gives you Chef's Awards, and you can buy recipes with Chef's Awards that you can use to cook Cataclysm food. And while this is the beta that I'm on right now, which is meant to simulate launch, you can actually buy these things right now on live servers. And you can see on my Death Knight, I already have 15 of them. So I have enough for a bunch of these different recipes. And I could get all the recipes that I would need to power level up to max cooking. In fact, a friend of mine is actually planning on going for World First Cooking, and she's managed to get her time down to just 1 minute, 2 seconds with all the proper setup. So, I mean, it's doable right now, because what you can do is on alts, you can do all these dailies, and of course, the entire idea is you do these dailies over a longer period of time. Like I said, I mentioned this one in a much earlier video, so if you saw that, hopefully you've been doing this. If not, you probably won't be able to get the full value out of this just yet, but maybe if you have happened to do some of these cooking dailies, you can prep this. But you can get all the crates of tasty meat, you can crack them open, and, I don't have auto loot turned on, apparently, so let's just get that there. And I'm also gonna, I have Leatrix Plus enabled. So I can just crack open all these crates of meat. We can see what I get from it. It's just a bunch of cooking materials for Cataclysm. And this still works even on live servers. You'll already get the materials, so I'm going to open these up before the actual launch and just have all of these things ready to go in my bags. And you can see now I have a ton of stuff to work with. I even bought some of the cocoa bean things. I don't know if oh, there's one that I still haven't opened. Yeah, so I have a ton of mats to play around with. And, let's see here. What's the one that I'm going to want to get? I want to get the strength food, which is that spirit, haste, hit. Okay, yeah, so there's no strength food until later, it seems. But I could get, what's something good? Maybe let's get, haste food, or, yeah, haste food is probably solid for most people, haste or crit food. And that's mountain trout. Do I have any mountain trout? I think it doesn't give you fish, so I actually can't make that. Strike lurker, that is also fish. So I could make salted eye. I have some of the snake eyes here. I could make Whitecrest Gumbo, but obviously I don't want Spirit. I could get the hit rating one, because I have a ton of Monstrous Claws. That one was part of the pre-farming video that I made a few weeks ago, and I don't really care about dodge rating anyway. So, let's just say I'll probably go with Mastery also as a Blood DK. Can't go wrong with that. It's a good stat for a lot of people. So then I could just learn this right now on live servers, because it's 450 cooking, which is currently the cap. And then I can immediately just start crafting a bunch of these things. And my current plan, obviously I got a little bit unlucky there with Snake Eyes, so I'm not going to be able to get a ton compared to I have a ton of Monstrous Claws and stuff. But I'll be able to make at least enough of these to get by. And frankly, I don't need more than 10 or whatever for launch, and that should be more than enough to carry me to max level. And then if I were to power level my cooking, like what I could do right now, obviously, if I'm going to be making this before the launch so that I have it for leveling, but if I did this on live servers, I could just craft this now, and, power level it with this first, then get some of the salted eye, and then I'm not actually going to sit here and waste your time and do this entire thing, but then I can pre-buy with all the other currency like this. This is strength food, so I'll buy that one. That'll get me up a bit further, and then there's like another strength food later on. So where's that? Yeah, here. So beer-basted crocolisk, and that is crocolisk tail, which is another thing that I have a lot of. What was the one that I bought? Hearty seafood soup. That is blood shrimp, which is yet another thing that you can get right now from these boxes. So all of this stuff I could farm, and I'd have all the cooking recipes that I needed all the way up to max level. And you can see the beer-basted crocolisk thing that gives 90 strength, 90 stamina. This only requires level 80. So if you have a little bit of spare time, which there will be downtime, inevitably, you're not going to be go the entire questing route. There's going to be like 20, 30 seconds of RP in between quests. You pick up these recipes close to the start, you drop down a cooking fire during the quests, you cook up a few, and before long, you'll be able to get all this food. And it doesn't really make a huge difference. This is one of the more minor ones. I just wanted to start here because I wanted to show the entire pre-questing route. And in fact, before I forget, let me just throw up a timer just for the pre-quest thing, because I think that's important. I think it'll be good to see roughly how long you can expect it to take. And I don't want to cover chat. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. Let's just throw the timer. Oh. No, don't want. Did not want to increase the size. I have to do it this way. And yeah, let's just throw it there. So we'll have the timer there. And the idea will be, I'm going to head over to Northrend, so I'm going to go Hearth to Dalaran. My bags got torpedoed when I copied my character. And after I start the timer, and as I kind of walk through the process, I'm going to talk just in general about pre-questing and some tips that you can do to get ahead. So when it comes to pre-questing, the way I see it is there's basically two main theories, like two schools of thought on what the best way to do pre-questing is. There is the idea that quest experience, how much you actually get from a quest, is what matters more than anything. You'll also notice I do have the Wrath dailies here. You can see they do give experience. They give quite good experience. So these you should absolutely do. They are both 44k. That is actually one of the better quests that you can pick up. Interestingly enough, the cooking dailies, they actually scale your level. So you could pre-complete these. They're not amazing, though. 22k experience is not that good. But the advantage of them being in Orgrimmar, the cooking and fishing dailies, is that you can very easily pick them up. Because, as I'm going to explain, the two theories with pre-quests is there is maximum experience above all. So only quests like this, 44k. You'll see there's other ones here, like the dungeon quests, 44k, 33k, 33k. These are pretty good, but then you'll notice I have a lot of quests down here that are just 22k experience. This one's a little bit more, 27k experience. And a lot of the dungeon quests are going to be like these ones from Halls of Lightning, 44k, 33k. Problem is, most dungeons are all over the place. So unless you have an extremely coordinated network of people ready to bounce you around with, like, summoning stone summons to every single possible location, then it's going to be a little bit tricky to reliably get all of those dungeon quests if you wanted to do every single one of them. Also, a lot of you probably have already done those, which is another kind of issue with that strategy. A lot of the historically really high XP quests are kind of the ones that you want to be doing while actually leveling your characters. So if this is something that you played for Wrath of the Lich King launch, well, a lot of those quests were also the ones that gave Emblems of Heroism back during the Phase 1 of Wrath. And most people would have done those because it was really good for raiding back then. So the thing about pre-questing is that there is no real surefire route that is best for everybody. You kind of need to look at what quests you have available and piece together something that works for you. And like I said, there's two theories. One is the one I just discussed, of you basically put together everything that gives the most experience, and you just go for max value, and you don't care too much about travel time. And then there is the other theory, which is the one that I'll personally be doing here. And before I start the timer, the reason I haven't started it, mind you, is because this is where I plan on starting. I'm going to sit on this boat, because I don't want to have to fuck around and find it flying in the air. So I think it's a nice place to start my prequest turn-in route. So I'll be sitting here pretty much right at the start. I think this guy's probably doing exactly what I'm doing here and practicing his prequesting route. So I'm going to start here. I'll start the timer when I'm ready. But before I do that, I want to quickly just kind of go big picture and show you what this looks like. So you'll see I have all the ones on the boat. I have a bunch of Argent Tournament dailies, which I think is a great option for anybody. Daily quests, while they may not always be the most XP-rich quests, especially the higher ones, Sons of Hodir, which you'll see I have a bunch of these, and the ones in Argent Tournament, where I only have Valiant in this character. So Argent Tournament would be even better if you have all the champion quests unlocked, because there's close to 10 of them, I believe, whereas here I only have the 5 from Valiant. If I go down here for Tournament, or actually it's only 4. So still worth doing. Valiant is better than Aspirant. Unfortunately, if you are starting right now, you can only get Aspirant quests, but hey, that's still 3 quests. And they all give the same experience. The only difference is that there's, a larger amount of them, obviously. And I have another quest, Battle Plan to the Cavaldier, which you just loot off a mob in Hrothgar's Landing. There's no prereq for that. So I just grab all that stuff, and the plan is turn all the stuff on the boat, go to Argent Tournament, do all those turn-ins, then head to Storm Peaks, and fly south to Sons of Hodir, at which point, personally, I am going to have characters sitting at the Halls of Lightning Summoning Stone, and if you're wondering, why am I doing Halls of Lightning? Well, that's another thing that I'm going to talk about, because Halls of Lightning is a really good way to skip the crowds, but we'll discuss that more in a little bit. And that is mostly what I have. I have the Halls of Lightning quest because, duh, if you're going to be spamming that, which I'll discuss, then you might as well do that. Now, I would say slightly more optimized thing for the route that I'm going for would be the Halls of Stone quests. Unfortunately, I'm leveling with a friend, and she accidentally turned in the Halls of Stone quests. So that is one set of quests that, unfortunately, we had to cut from our pre-questing route, and we're doing bonus stuff. But all the other stuff here is pretty standard. And I've tried to weave in a lot of stuff. You can see all the stuff in Storm Peaks. This is all turned in at the Sons of Hodir hub. This is Argent Tournament, among a few other things. This is the boat. And then we have Dalaran and Halls of Lightning. So, effectively, this is the other theory. While I am getting, on average, less experience per quest from all this stuff, it's all in concentrated hubs. And I think now I could probably go ahead and start the timer. And we'll see, first off, how much experience I get from all this. I got a tiny bit of a head start just because refreshes your zone exploration. So you get exploration XP when you copy a character over to the PTR. So just ignore some of that. I'll be a tiny bit of experience over as a result, but this will still give us a good idea, so let's go. So I'm going to turn in all this stuff really easily. There's settings in Leatrix Plus that let you skip that if you really wanted to. Also, yeah, that's unfortunate because... See, this is also one of the other good reasons to practice something like this, because now I know that if I turn in those first, it'll bug out because it'll say, like, oh, you, what's it called? Like, your quest log is full. So what I should probably do, actually, is start with those 2 turn-ins in the bottom, because that'll clear up space, and then that way I don't need to worry about the rest. Did I not turn in volatility? I did not turn in volatility. Minor time loss, but this is why we practice. Now, I'm just trying to give you a general idea here. I'm probably going to practice this a few more times on my own just before the run actually starts, just so I get the timing down. I forgot that I had that one, but okay, we're good. And then Shadow Vaults, that was a follow-up quest, so that's not actually one of the ones I'm turning in. And yeah, the nice thing about this is I'm going to be only spending a few minutes doing all these turn-ins. And if somebody were to do all the dungeon turn-ins, they'd probably get like 20 to 30% more experience than I am on all of their turn-ins. But the idea is that I finish doing my pre-quests before them. and then I am actually just grinding experience first. And the reason that I said there's two theories to this, and there's two schools of thought, and it's not necessarily like one is better than the other, is because it ultimately is a very hard thing to calculate. I honestly can't tell you which one is mathematically faster. And the other problem is it does largely depend on which quests you have available. There are some very obvious ones, right? Like the Proof of Demise quests you should absolutely do just because they are very easy. And everybody can do them, and they give a shit ton of experience. And the nice thing is they're in Dalaran, so you can swoop by and turn them in any time with little to no detour. So some of those are guaranteed. Literally everybody's going to be doing that. And the Halls of Lightning quests, I think, are a no-brainer because a lot of people will be doing Halls of Lightning, but everything else is personal preference, right? Like some people who have champion quests will get more value out of Argent Tournament. Some people, if they didn't turn in the Halls of Stone quests, would be able to do that. But you kind of need to figure it out on your own. And at the very least, I would recommend doing some of this. And I'll talk about why. Now, the thing about getting ahead is, in my opinion, there's roughly 3 main strategies that I can foresee for getting ahead on launch. There is the route that I'm going to be showcasing here, which is do prequests and then head into Halls of Lightning. That is something that I've seen a lot of people discussing. I do not know for a fact if Halls of Lightning is getting nerfed or not. I plan on just double checking. I don't think it has been nerfed on live servers yet. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I would have heard something about it. But it did get nerfed back in original Cataclysm, so it is entirely possible that it gets nerfed again. I could also, if I wanted to, take like a slightly more optimized route, but I'm just trying to talk through this stuff. But there is a chance that Halls of Lightning gets nerfed, and that's the only downside to this route. This is the theoretically fastest route if you do Halls of Lightning, if you just blast through the levels, because it gives the most experience and it is completely disconnected from anything related to Cataclysm and just makes it really easy. You don't need to worry at all about competing with the initial crowds for High Gel or vashj'ir. My ALEXA, I don't want to alert it, just made like a weird beeping noise. I don't know if that picked up in the mic. Weird. So now I'm doing these ones. Interesting thing about this quest, Forging Ahead. So this will have you put down another thing, placing Hodier's Helm. It gives you an immediate follow-up quest, and this is one of the very few follow-up quests that I will actually do because it is just very easy. So I'm going to do this. We're going to head over here. I'm just going to go to the Northern Ice Spike, and then I'll be able to turn in the other one as I leave. I'll have to figure out like the most optimal way to hit all these guys in order. But technically speaking, if you already did that, doing the Place the Helm quest will... Oh, that's the Everfrost Shard guy. This is the one I want. Doing the Place the Helm quest will give you a new daily that you can do. And it's basically the same amount of experience. It's just since I haven't done it here, I am doing the actual quest version because they are exactly the same, except this gives you the follow-up for the Helm, which is a tiny, 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 tiny bit more than doing it otherwise. So I'm going to turn this in. All right, then we're going to fly up to Halls of Lightning. And you can see that overall, 5 minutes for 30% of a level. It's nothing insane, but it is efficient. And I've said before that when it comes to launch day stuff, every little tiny bit counts. Every little bit counts. And I'll tell you why. You may be thinking to yourself right now, well, are prequests worth doing if I have no intention of spamming Halls of Lightning? Because if I am planning on spamming Halls of Lightning, or if I'm not planning on spamming Halls of Lightning, then I don't want to be sitting out here doing Northrend stuff when I could be getting ahead in High Gel or vashj'ir. And I will quickly at least stop mentioning vashj'ir. I'll head that off and say, vashj'ir is terrible. Do not level in it. It is a very thematic, very nice zone. I quite like the atmosphere. But I will just let you know right now that it is absolutely not worth doing. I tested it. One of the main points in my guide, if you have not watched that already, if you're not from the future, then vashj'ir is just bad. A lot of people I've heard say they're going to try to level in vashj'ir instead of High Gel because it's going to be less crowded in their opinion. And I think that is also kind of a overstatement because a lot of people think they're the only one who assumes that vashj'ir is going to be empty and that they'll be able to level in there with less competition. And I'm here to tell you that not only is vashj'ir not going to be empty, it's going to be even more crowded, and it's going to be like 5 times as slow. vashj'ir is so bad because, let me just make sure. Oh wow, there's a lot of people testing Halls of Lightning, goddamn. Turn on the quests. vashj'ir, you get there on a boat, and the boat is on a timer. So there is absolutely no way to reliably get ahead of other people. I'm just going to do a little bit of Halls of Lightning here. So that's the end of my prequests, except for the $1 ones, which I can turn in later. And, oh, fuck. Never mind. I'm not going to do Halls of Lightning because literally none of my bars are set up. I forgot that it completely fucks your macros on a fresh character, and it would just completely screw me over to do this right now. So we're not going to do that. I will just try to run out here. But this is kind of what I would do. I would then solo the dungeon a bunch of times, and, or well, in my case, duo the dungeon. You can duo or you can solo it. I'll stop the timer just as a general idea. The thing about the $1 quests is you're just going to want to complete those later. The nice thing about the pre-quests is you have pretty much until level 83 to do them in most cases. Some of them might be at like level 79. I forget where the cutoff point is. I think it's like level 79 quests start to depreciate in value at level 83, and level 80 quests are good through 83. I know for a fact level 80 quests are still good at 83. Forget exactly, they still give exactly the same amount of experience. And keeping a few of them in your bags or in your log is fine, because all that really matters is that you my heart's still on CD, so I'm just going to use this teleport thing. Maybe it'll take me where I need to go. But the only thing that really matters is you get at least half your log filled or cleared so that you have... It's not terrible. That you have room in your quest log for the new zones. And the rest you can just tackle later as long as you're not losing value on them, because it's free XP no matter when you turn it in. So you can see here it took me about 8 minutes, and that was highly inefficient. I also normally would have gotten to summon 2 Halls of Lightning, which would have shaved off like a minute or 2. And that was about 40% of level. Not insane. There are pre-quest routes that I've seen that are like absolutely ludicrous, and some people are getting pre-quests where each one gives you like 40k experience. That stuff is kind of insane though, and I don't think is applicable. It's stuff like the Ruby Sanctum ending quest, the Quell Delar end chain, where it's like 40 to 50k on every single quest, and I've seen like routes that can either get you to 75% or all the way to max. But the reality is, like, you know, if you know about that stuff, you're already doing it. The reason I'm making this video is for the people who haven't done that yet, and I'm here to tell you that you can still get a few pre-quests done, and it is still worth doing. So I just told you the first strategy of doing Halls of Lightning. Now let's go over the other 2 strategies. One is really simple. It is to queue for dungeons. Random Cataclysm dungeon. Now, this one only really works if you are going in as a tank. As a tank or as a healer, I guess. Really, you want to have a tank. If you have like a healer and a tank, that's the best. I'm going to go in with a healer in it, or me as a tank and 1 DPS, which is still fine. As a tank, obviously, you're going to get fast queues, so this will be reliable as a backup strategy, which is what I'll do if Halls of Lightning is fucked. And you'll be able to control the flow of the pulls, so it won't be too bad. Now, the problem with this, and the reason why I think Halls of Lightning is just strictly better, other than people who have things super ultra optimized, like I'm pretty sure the World First route might actually do a few Cataclysm dungeons, because they're probably the ones who have that, you know, every quest gives 50k XP. And I don't exactly know the math on it. In fact, let me pull up my calculator. But let's say if every quest gave 50k XP, which is very, very, very generous, 50,000 times a full quest log of 25 that would still be like 1,250,000, which wouldn't even be enough to get you there. So I don't know if people are bullshitting that they can get all of 81 in a single prequesting route. I think it's kind of bullshit, but I have seen definitely confirmed ones that get you around 60-70%. And that's kind of what I mentioned earlier about the, super hyper optimized efficiency experience value ones rather than my efficiency route. But the fact that we're getting 40% here, which is only like 20% lower than those ones that are going to have to spend way more time traveling around, it's not a big difference. The thing about those people who are going to be traveling around is they might also be weaving these dungeon queues in, because in my situation, I'm trying to get to Halls of Lightning as quickly as possible. They can do the pre-quests in between queuing for dungeons, which they can do anywhere in the world. So that is one of the other advantages of doing that. You're not tied to any specific location queuing for Cataclysm dungeons. You can just send it. So, okay, that sounds pretty good. What are the downsides? Well, the downsides are that Cataclysm dungeons, they're not bad, but they are also not, like, that efficient. Halls of Lightning is like a really hyper-efficient questing route. Can I just, like, talk to the Zeppelin trainer still? And no, it doesn't let me teleport to Northrend. So we're just going to sit here and chill and wait for the Zeppelin a little bit. And wait, what am I doing? I'm sorry. Second channel videos, by the way, for anybody new here, these are completely unedited. So my main channel, I do very fancy edited videos. The entire point of having this second channel is I'm going to press record. I'm going to give you the information that you need, and I'm going to do it without a script, without any sort of editing whatsoever, so that I can just get it out there. Because if I have to go in and I have to edit it, then that's like hours of additional time that it takes me to get out that information. Okay. I don't remember why I wanted to go to Northrend, but I remember that my brain was telling me I did. So I'm just going to throw myself in the Zeppelin, and hopefully I remember what I was doing after the fact. Okay, I remember now. I was going to go to Hygel. So I don't want to do this. Never mind. Don't want to do this. I want to portal hop and go to Orgrimmar and then show you Hygel, because that's the final thing that I'm going to want to talk about. Now I remember. Good. But okay, so that second thing, why are dungeons not good? Well, I did dungeon testing, and I probably mentioned this within my actual leveling guide, but I had a bunch of people with Shadowmourne who were just slaughtering these dungeons. I was on a template character when I did my testing, but they were effectively carrying me, and we were just cruising through. Mobs were dying instantly. It was about as fast as dungeons can reasonably get. And even then, I basically tied my leveling time in Hygel when I was solo leveling as a template character feral druid that I barely knew how to play and was figuring out as I went along. And if you have optimized Hygel questing whatsoever, of any idea of it from, over the years, if you've played it before, then Hygel might honestly just be better for you. The quests there are pretty solid. And of course, Halls of Lightning, as we said, just gives ludicrous experience. That's a completely separate story. But the bigger issue with dungeon spamming, and why, while it's not necessarily bad, it's a bit problematic, especially from 80 to 81, is the range at which you unlock the dungeons. So right now, I only have access to Blackrock Caverns and Throne of the Tides. And these are not bad dungeons. Throne of the Tides in particular is pretty fast. Problem, though, is when it comes to dungeons, a lot of the experience comes from the one-time quests. Throne of the Tides, you do not have one-time quests. The only thing that you have with Throne of the Tides is just the dungeon experience. Blackrock Caverns has quests. Right now on beta, they are very bugged. You need to run Blackrock Caverns like 3 different times to actually get the quest to turn in properly. So that kind of sucks. I hope they're going to fix it by launch, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that one, knowing Blizzard and how they've been handling things lately. So it could still be a little bit fucked. But the thing is, at level 81, you unlock Vortex Pinnacle and Stonecore. And those are both pretty quick dungeons. Vortex Pinnacle especially is decently short. Stonecore, if you know what you're doing and you're doing efficient pulls, is also quite short. And they both have quests, which are working perfectly normally. There are additional quests for Vortex Pinnacle and Stonecore that you get at 83 for Stonecore, roughly, and like 83 to 84 for Vortex Pinnacle. So that might make it a little bit worth waiting to do those when you have the extra quest from the zones themselves. But it's not really a big deal, and worst case scenario, you could always just run it again at that point. And it might not even be a bad idea because Twilight Highlands sucks massive dick. And that's something that I will probably discuss on my leveling guide, but I'll repeat it here. Level 84 to 85 is like really annoying. The quests in that zone start to get really slow, so you're going to want to get as much extra experience as possible. The early stuff, at least for Horde, is not too bad. Alliance is pretty dire, but Horde at least has decent quest efficiency in Twilight Highlands early, so you just want to finish it before you hit the really shitty stuff. And there's, of course, Crucible of Carnage, that stuff, if you're able to do it. And the thing about dungeons is, as I said, you unlock 2 of them at level 81, and then you don't unlock any more dungeons until 84, at which point you unlock Halls of Origination, Lost City of the Tol'vir, and Grim Batol. And 82, 83, nothing. So you get double the dungeons just by waiting 1 level to spam dungeons at level 80. Also, just coming up Hygel, I'll discuss this a little bit more on how you can get ahead in Hygel, but you'll notice that the introduction stuff that you pick up in Orgrimmar and Stormwind, you don't actually need it. I can just grab the Ysera thing right now and start this quest line. And the other thing about Hygel quests is there's these quests over here, which are probably still worth doing if you happen to get here really early, because these are actually relatively decent quests, but you could theoretically skip them. So let's say you arrive 1 to 2 minutes late in Hygel. You could just grab the Ysera quest and immediately skip to the next little hub. It's the one over here with Malfurion. And I believe that this just lets you progress. I think those initial quests are optional. I still need to test that. I wanted to test that before making this video, but, you know, if I have the option to get like a tiny little bit more and wait like another 3 hours to record this, I would rather just get this out to you guys earlier in the day so you can start to prepare. But you can see, you can turn this into Malfurion, and it at the very least unlocks this hub where we get his War on the Twilight's Hammer, the Flameseer Staff, and you can start doing this. There's the other quests over here. So for this reason, if you arrive to Hygel slightly late and you are dead set on doing Hygel, it may be worth it to just skip those early quests entirely, head straight to Malfurion. That way, you still have a second chance to get ahead of the curve, because a lot of people just aren't going to realize that. They're going to think that they need to do everything. But the most important thing, and the thing that's going to get everyone who watches this video, or really anyone who knows this trick ahead of the pack, is the fact that you can just go straight here. And I'll fly over to where I'm talking about, but just to quickly wrap up the dungeon thing. I know I'm bouncing around here, but I got to Mount Hygel faster than I thought I would. The thing about dungeons is because you unlock 4 of them, twice as many at level 81, and they're both really good dungeons, I think it's better to find alternative ways to reach level 81 as fast as you can. And if you are set on doing dungeons, don't do them 80 to 81. Do them 81 plus. And that way you'll be able to get all 4 of them instead of just Blackrock Caverns, just Throne of the Tides. And you probably still will get those a lot, because the vast majority of people queuing, unless you have a 5-stack, which very few people will have a full 5-stack. But if you're queuing with only a limited number of people, you're not going to find too many random 81s queuing for dungeons. So I actually think it's best to not do dungeons at all in the early levels. Wait until you get to like 82. And towards the end of 82, you'll be able to unlock the Deepholm quests for Stonecore. And by the time that you have reached the end of 82, and you've got into Deepholm before everybody else, and you're doing those quests there, the vast majority of average players will just now be hitting 81. And then, if you're not in a 5-stack and you start queuing for dungeons, you will reliably have access to the full pool of 4 that you get at 81, and you can do those there. Now, the thing about those dungeons at level 84, Halls of Origination, etc., is if you are really looking to optimize your launch leveling, and you do not have a 5-stack, and you get to those levels early, and you're trying to optimize and do those dungeons at level 84, well, the reality is there's going to be very few people there by that point. So, for launch day leveling, I don't know if doing Halls of Origination, etc. will be efficient, because every single random dungeon will probably just put you back in Throne of the Tides or Blackrock Caverns, which, compared to some of the later Twilight Highlands quests, are vastly preferable, but you would still rather get the later ones. So is what it is. But that's kind of how I would approach it if you're going for the dungeon spam stuff. And if you're doing the Halls of Lightning route, something similar. Do Halls of Lightning, hit 82. At 82, Halls of Lightning falls off hard. Drop it completely at that point. That's when you want to beeline straight for Deep Home, because then you're going to get largely ahead of the pack when you get to Deep Home, and do the same thing that I just mentioned of do the quest there. Then you can start to do dungeons, especially when you've unlocked the additional Stone Core ones, and that'll just be relatively efficient. And also, if you queue into a dungeon and it's like a fast one, like Blackrock Caverns, for instance, if you've already done it and you don't need any of the quests, well, you can just run up to Romog Bonecrusher and kill him really fast. He is right at the start of the instance, and you could just knock him out and then leave, and that way you only eat a 15-minute penalty, more like 12 by the time you've killed him, and you can just queue for another dungeon faster. And at level 82 or so, you can keep doing that, fishing to try and get the ones you want, namely Stone Core and Vortex Pinnacle. And if you get Throne of the Tides, honestly, you probably should just play the entire thing out, because by the time you reach the first boss, it's already relatively fast. But that's kind of your prerogative. That's your call. And as for when you turn in the Dalaran quests, that is also kind of up to you. I don't know exactly when I'm going to do that. I plan on using my Hearthstone actively within the zone to save a bit of time, and I'm going to use Warlock summons to get myself to Uldum. Otherwise, if you have your Hearthstone set to Dalaran to use Caverns of Time Portal to quickly get to Uldum, I would say do it when you're doing that. Just Hearth to Dalaran, turn in your Dalaran quests, and then go through the Caverns of Time Portal. That's probably a more efficient way to do it. But anyways, now that we've gotten that out of the way, keep in mind that before launch, the only thing you won't be able to do is get into Mount Hyjal. The servers are going to just open. At a certain point, you'll know when the servers are available when your XP bar pops up. So it's like a live rollout. So you don't want to get into Mount Hyjal here. You want to make sure you're right on the edge of the zone. And basically, the fastest way to reach Ysera is something like right here. Right here. If you touch Mount Hyjal, if you go right there, boom, you get teleported all the way over to here. Bottom of Frostwhisper Gorge. So you don't want that to happen. But here, we're still in Winterspring. There's still nothing wrong with it. And then let's say I could close but start a new timer. Let's say I see my experience bar pop up, I hit insert, and then I immediately start flying. And I am just beelining right for Ysera. This is really, really close. I am all the way up here. It's going to be less than a minute to reach her. And keep in mind, the vast majority of players at this point, while you are just flying directly to Ysera, are in Orgrimmar and Stormwind. They're grabbing the quest off the mission board right now. They are flying to the different Valley of Wisdom district to turn that in. Boom, we're at Ysera. Sub 30 seconds. That's how long it takes from just outside the zone to reach the first quest giver and to do those other quests over there too. And everybody else is going to be grabbing that first quest. They're going to be going to Moonglade. They're going to be doing the roleplay, flying to the portal, start over here. It's a 2-minute long roleplay where it goes all the way over here. You will have anywhere from like a 3 to 5-ish minute lead over everybody else just by doing this. It's a big, big, big time save at the start. And that brings me to my final point, the third launch leveling strategy. Obviously, if you're doing Hyjal at all, that is recommended. But even if you are doing prequests, you don't need to turn in your prequests at the start, as we went over with the Dalaran ones. Now, the only downside to this strategy, to doing Hyjal first, is because you need room in your quest log to actually do stuff in Hyjal, that limits the amount of prequests you can do. You kind of need to go in with 20 out of 25. And I've seen people say, oh, we'll just quickly turn in 5 prequests before you go to Hyjal, but that kind of defeats the entire purpose of doing Hyjal anyway. The entire reason for doing Hyjal is you're using this trick to get ahead of the pack anyway and just quest here, because questing is really good. But if you're turning in 5 prequests, you have now lost your 5-minute advantage, and even a 1-minute advantage is going to be colossal in getting far ahead of people here. So if you do plan on doing Hyjal, do 20 out of 25 prequests, or hell, play it, calmly or something. Do like 15 out of 25 prequests. That's at least something. And you'll have them sitting there. Do something like Argent Tournament plus Sons of Hodir. That's honestly a very short distance away from Dalaran. So you can do a bunch of quests in Mount Hyjal. You can get like midway through level 81 because Hyjal is really, really good, like all the way up until here. Basically, the stuff that you don't want to do in Hyjal, I'll probably mention this in my guide again, but everything past this point. When you get to the point where you have to like disguise yourself as a Twilight cultist, it slows down immensely. And there's a lot of like very long roleplay quests in this section. But pretty much everything up until this point where you're doing Sethria's Roost, you're doing the stuff with like the big fire turtle in this area, Shrine of Aviana, this is all very, very efficient questing. It's a really good zone. And this will get you roughly like 81.5. So you can do this up to 81.5. Then you can go turn in all of your pre-quests, just bail on Hyjal, don't continue. And that'll get you a big surge of experience. Probably not the remainder of level 81. Well, definitely not the remainder of 81, but it'll give you maybe 20 or 30%-ish into towards 82. And now you'll only need a little bit of experience, and now you'll be level 81. And what's the beauty of level 81 again? Well, you have access to more dungeons. Now, there might still be only Throne of the Tides and Blackrock Caverns at this point, but you can queue for those, you can get to 82, and you will be infinitely far ahead. You'll still be able to cruise into Deepholm. And that's kind of the key here. All roads lead to Deepholm, especially on launch day. There's going to be a lot of different paths for general 80 to 85 leveling, but the thing about Deepholm is it's not a bad zone. I was kind of down on it during my earlier leveling runs, but now that I've gotten familiar with, you know, how to quickly do some of these quests, what quests to skip, which quests to do, it's honestly pretty good. The very end of it, you maybe want to avoid because there's some really lengthy quests, but by that point, you'll probably already be level 83, and you can switch over to Uldum, and Uldum is also really good. And then you can start weaving in dungeons, which, as we said, give really good experience, and hell, well, some of the end quests, the very roleplay-heavy ones towards the end of Deepholm may not be ideal. They are sure as hell better than doing any of the stuff towards the end of Twilight Highlands. So if that's what it takes to avoid doing the end of Twilight Highlands, you know, that's what it takes. It's a little bit hard to give an exact number because, of course, your mileage may vary in terms of dungeon leveling. Your mileage may vary in terms of pre-quests. It's impossible to say what everybody's going to do. But I think, hopefully, that gives you a general idea of what you're going to be looking for. And the moment you get to Deepholm, though, it's mostly smooth sailing. It's just kind of follow the generic questing route, do the regular leveling stuff. All of this stuff, the reason why I don't want to include this in the actual guide is because this is all just launch day stuff. Getting ahead of the pack. Pre-quests, you know, little time save efficiency things. None of that really, really, really matters. And, you know, it's only for just trying to get ahead of the pack. And the nice thing about launch, I'll just end this on a good note because Blizzard has officially announced this, so some of you may have already read the post, but I remember a lot of people asked me this, and before the Blizzard announcement, I didn't know. There is no real rush to hit level 85 on the very first week, or rather, on the Monday of. So I'm recording this, you know, middle of the day, Sunday. There's going to be a release on 6 p.m., my time at least, 6 p.m. EST, and then reset for North America is 11 a.m. Tuesday. So there's this weird weekly reset gap in between the actual release and the weekly reset, where it's like, well, technically, couldn't we do all the weekly stuff here? Couldn't we get a Valor cap in? Blizzard has confirmed that is not the case. A lot of the really good reasons as to why you might have wanted to rush to 85, namely the Valor cap, but also world bosses, which is something that I kind of briefly mentioned on one of my streams, and I was thinking of making a video about it, but Blizzard has confirmed world bosses are not only not coming out until June, but they have also been severely gutted in terms of their loot and won't be buffed until Zulaman. So they are hardly even worth doing. And there's no reason to rush to get kills on them because they just won't be up until much, much later, not even the Tuesday reset. So while getting ahead on launch is, of course, good, and I'm going to try and optimize this because, I mean, hey, entertainment value, right? People want to see me level fast. I'll do my best to oblige. But if you are really worried about falling behind, I can tell you right now, it does not fucking matter. Any reason previously that you would have had is completely fixed by Blizzard. Honestly, I've criticized their handling of Cataclysm so far. The stuff with the launch is just kind of a W. Rare Blizzard W, they actually fixed a lot of the issues that could have happened with people getting an irreversible advantage. And it's nice to see them addressing that ahead of time for once. Because a lot of times people bring up those issues, they completely ignore it, and then when it becomes a problem, they have heavy-handed solutions after the fact. It's always so much easier when they foresee the problems and just block them out ahead of time. Much less stress for everybody involved, and there's no need to do janky solutions after the fact. But anyways, I think that covers everything. All the stuff that I'm realistically doing. I guess the final thing that I'll mention is don't sleep on engineering. Engineering quite good. I don't have it fully leveled on this character. I was doing that as I was preparing to record this video, and then I just thought, I should probably get this out now. I have everything else that I need to do. But engineering gives you nitro boosts, which can backfire out in the open world, but are still worth having because it is a nice time save, and it gives you flex weave underlay. There are a few times while leveling on characters when I didn't have flex weave underlay that I very much wish I had it. Lots of little neat gadgets like that. Of course, sapper charges are nice. It's really the only beneficial profession for leveling. There's other slight advantages to the other ones, but doesn't really matter a whole lot. But yeah, that's it. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you found my regular leveling guide helpful. I have yet to finish it, but I hope that, if you're coming here from that video, you enjoyed it and you thought it was a nice summary of the optimized route. That's it for me. Anyways, peace.